Hey there, welcome to the Stormwater World podcast. After 10 years in the stormwater industry, I feel like I've only scratched the surface of all there is to learn. I believe there are a lot of people just like me who are curious, but we're all just so busy. So I'm going to ask the questions so we can get the answers together. My name is Ty Garman, and I'm your host. Join me as we learn about what is happening in the stormwater world. Welcome back, everybody, to this episode of the Stormwater World podcast. We've got another great episode for you. Specifically, we're going to be talking about stormwater as it pertains to construction. And in that realm, we're going to be looking at sediment control. But before we do that, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while and you like water podcasts, believe it or not, there's more than one. So I'd like to give a shout out to my friend Katie Johns and her co-host Bob Crossen. And have you listened to Talking Underwater, One Water, One Podcast? It's brought to you by the editors of Stormwater Solutions, Wastewater Digest, Water World, and Water Quality Products. The podcast dives into one water topics, including water scarcity, smart water, emerging contaminants, and more. You can subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and Spotify, and you can follow them on Twitter at TUWPodcast. That's T as in the, U as in under, W as in water, podcast. All right, so let's talk about some sediment control. And to do that, I've got a couple of gentlemen with me that know all about it. Mr. Rich and Nelson Quinley with DuraWattle. Welcome to the podcast, guys. Thanks for
having us, Ty.
So let's get it. So DuraWattle. So let me frame this up for everybody. I'm going to be the bad guy, right? So we're going to talk about sediment control, and we're going to throw out the window right out of the gate what everybody's used to thinking about. So what if we threw out your straw wattle and we got away and quit using that silt fence and we did something different? And what would that be? I think I did it right. I think that would be DuraWattle. What do you guys think? Is that kind of an accurate definition of what DuraWattle does? It's an alternative, correct? A little better way to do it.
DuraWattle is a flexible sediment control barrier that is designed to replace straw wattle and silt fence in higher traffic areas. And we've been pretty successful at that. It's primarily used in front of home sites at new construction, in new home construction. And the reason behind it is our customers were constantly having to replace and repair straw wattle and silt fence to remain in compliance. And with DuraWattle, you're able to drive over, make your deliveries, do whatever work you need to do, and it survives vehicle traffic. And so it cuts down on the non-compliance and the having to repair less durable sediment barriers.
I got you. So yeah, kind of recap what you're saying. I think a lot of our inspectors out there, it's over and over again, right? It's always, you go out there and it's that one section of silt fence that's been driven over, and they kept asking, hey, what's going on? Can you put that back up? Can you put that back up? And what DuraWattle does is eliminates that issue and keeps them in compliance, because not only can it be driven over, it still does its job, which is a barrier for that sediment.
That's
is that correct? All right, cool. So did you see an opportunity from being in the industry that needed to be corrected because of the compliance issue, just everything that DuraWattle does? Or did somebody approach you and were like, hey, here's the problem, and I think you can solve it because of what your parent company does? How did DuraWattle come to be?
Well, really, it was the idea of Percy Cole. Back in 2006, Percy was in stormwater compliance with new home contractors, and he had the idea for a straw wattle replacement that you could drive equipment over the top of and not damage. I had a background in manufacturing and geotextiles, and so we decided to we bought a sewing machine in our garage. We made up a sample. And he had a lot of contacts in the industry, so we brought it over to a job site in Sacramento that had three contractors. It was K. Hovnanian, Morrison Homes, and Shea Homes. And we had a meeting with them with their with their land development executives there. And we did a test install and came back 3 weeks later. And they said if we dropped our price in half, they'd write us a purchase order. And it was a pretty sizable purchase order. So we kind of went back to the drawing board and said, well, what were they hoping to get from this? And how can we make it in a way that would make it affordable to them, that would work within their budget? And so we went through, we looked at the raw materials, we got new raw materials, and we just did testing and came up with the basic construction of the DuraWattle today. Brought it back for an additional test, and they bought probably 30,000 linear feet as a first order. And that's how we got our start back in 2006. Since then, we've produced over 10 million linear feet of DuraWattle. We currently produce between 1 to 2 million linear feet per year. And it's sold. Nelson, what states are we selling DuraWattle into right now?
Now, our largest markets are Colorado, Texas, and then California.
Ooh, Texas.
Some sprinkling some places like North and South Carolina, and slowly just expanding to other areas. So,
yeah. Then we also have a customer in Hawaii. We have a customer in New Zealand, in Australia,
New Zealand, Alaska. A few other places as well.
A few other places, yeah.
What do you feel like is the biggest challenge for adoption? I mean, it seems pretty. I mean, again, I tell everybody probably at least once a pod, that I don't know anything about anything. It just seems so straightforward and simple to me to use this product. Like, what do you are there? What are your thoughts on that? Like, what's the friction for sample? Adoption?
Yeah.
It's a pretty unique product. And I have a sample here. Hopefully you can see that the filter fabric is actually see-through on it. And that allows for water flow through it. It's a monofilament geotextile. On the inside of it is polyurethane foam sealed in plastic. And you can see it's the same polyurethane foam that you would see in your seat cushions in your truck. That allows for the wattle to be compressed down to nothing and basically bounce back into position. The raw materials are a little more expensive than a straw wattle or silt fence, so it is definitely a premium product in the industry. Performs very well, and where it's been adopted is in markets where they require contractors to stay in compliance and inevitably having to replace the straw wattle and silt fence. And once they have those kind of costs, which is typically having to replace the straw wattle or silt fence about 3 to 4 times through a construction process, we become less expensive than what we're doing right now. Now the other way we see it being used, we see it being used in 2 different ways. One is a linear sediment barrier covering the entire job site in front of the home site. So basically just going straight down the street. The other way is we make 18-foot sections, and in certain markets they use them for driveways. And that gives them access for a driveway section, and then they'll use straw or silt fence basically for everything else. So I'd say we got a mix. About 75% of our market is a complete linear sediment barrier, and about 25% of it is the driveway sections. So it just really depends on the sense of that market.
That makes sense. And then for all the listeners out there that couldn't see what Rich was showing you, you can go over to YouTube and you can watch the video. Or you can actually go to the DuraWattle website at DuraWattle.com, DuraWattle.com. And you can look at it live and in person. There's a request a free sample on their website. I'm looking at it right here. And you can actually hold, feel, and touch what he was just describing to you. So There you go.
Now, one of the unique things that we were able to do with it, and I mentioned that we have this plastic liner and you can see the black plastic liner right here with the foam on the inside. And so we developed a process where we crush the foam on the inside in our manufacturing process. Then we vacuum seal it. So imagine those beds that you get in a box. So we've kind of done that to our DuraWattle. It comes in about 1/3 of an inch thick. And before you install it, you simply just puncture the liner through the sleeve itself, and it just expands back into position. The unique thing that gives us is the ability to ship 1,800 feet of wattle per pallet, which is about 5 times as much as if we could if we did not compress it. So it's very easy to ship, distribute, and bring to a job site. And that's one of the, besides being a high performing product, the ease of shipping and distribution and delivery is pretty significant. You compare it to, I believe it's 300 feet of straw wattle on a pallet, and we fit 1,800 feet.
Correct. Yeah, and they come in bundles of 300 feet, wow. So it makes it real easy for someone to come by and just pick up one bundle and take it to the job site. So
yeah, so how many bundles is that on a pallet? It's 6?
6 bundles, yeah.
6 bundles per pallet, all which can be sold individually on a distribution standpoint and thrown in the back of a pickup truck.
Again, so this comes up all the time. So it's cost of total ownership, right? So what you just told me is like, so you got to get back 30,000 feet when you're looking and comparing at this for your project. And you got to understand that, hey, what does it cost to get it there? What does it cost to ship it there? I mean, what you just said to me is you're going to suck all the air out of it. It's going to make it easier to ship. You're going to send it to me. I'm going to get way more than I could have got with other products, with other traditional products. And then I don't have to necessarily replace that particular section that I'm using it for 2 or 3 times during the course of my job. So, I mean, those pennies are turning into dollars pretty quick, and they're stacking on top of each other. And then you've also mentioned, I can see right behind you, reusable.
Yes.
So how do you feel about it? Obviously, if it's got to, I understand it's going to be site to site, right? Like if it's just getting pounded, it may, by traffic, it may not be reusable the next site. But if you guys looked at, your data, or do you have a feel for like an average feel, or how do you guys kind of envision if I'm a builder, if I'm a home builder and I've got normal traffic, to where I'd actually be able to pick that thing up and take it to the, the next lot, I guess. Like if I'm doing I guess in my mind, the best use, if I'm thinking about it, is like I've got multiple lots and I can just, keep kind of daisy chaining them down, like pick it up, move it to the next one, pick it up, move it to the next one. Am I thinking about that correctly?
Basically, I mean, I can explain what the worst case scenario is and the best case scenario. So a lot of markets that we sell into use a concrete slab. And in those situations, where it's not uncommon to pick up 70, 80, 90% of the DuraWattle and reuse it. That can mean moving it down the street or moving it to a completely different job site. And as we showed you on the product, the foam is covered in a plastic sleeve, weighs 6 pounds per 12-foot section, wet or dry. So even in when you're having rain events, this thing can still be picked up. So there is a little bit of work to uninstall it. It's not a lot, but there is a little bit of work to uninstall it. So in the worst case scenario I've seen, I'd have to say is probably Colorado. And what they do is they put the DuraWattle down. Then they drive heavy equipment on the site to dig their basements. Then they drive heavy equipment on the site to form the basements. They drive heavy equipment on the site to pour the basements, to remove the forms for the basements. And then they drive heavy equipment on it to move the big pile of dirt to the next lot down. Then they build their house. And it's an absolutely brutal environment. And it's so in that particular environment, a lot of the time they're getting one use out of a DuraWattle. Now out here in California, when they put the DuraWattle down, basically the access that they need at that point is to deliver sheetrock and the normal vertical stage of construction, and it's not as rough on our wattle. Now, straw wattle and silt fence gets absolutely obliterated over and over again, but that's just less traffic, although there still is traffic. In those environments, it's very common to get, again, 70, 80, 90% of it's reusable, and they'll just pick it up and move it down the street to the next lots that they're building, or they'll store it and then move it off site afterwards. And it's not uncommon for a DuraWattle to get used over and over for 3, 4, 5 years in those situations. So it really just depends. I'd have to say in areas where they're doing driveway sections, I'm not sure how much they're reusing it, but again, they're directing all the traffic onto one section of DuraWattle from the job site, which is going to mean it's going to get beat up pretty badly. And it's holding up to that kind of abuse, but in those situations where they're just really heavy traffic, less reuse, less traffic, more reuse.
Gotcha. Nelson, how long have you been doing with this? How long have you been associated with the company? What's your world look like? Tell me your story. I don't want everybody to forget that you're on this podcast with us.
I technically got my start filling up gravel bags on the side of the house like 15 years ago, but I officially started about 11 years ago, working out in the warehouse and making the wattles, and just doing everything from warehouse and driving forklifts and all that stuff. And then I just over the years, awesome. I just slowly got upgraded positions to the point where now I'm selling and shipping everything. So I'm kind of the person that you deal with whenever you need wattles or DuraWattles. So
yeah, right. So operations heavy. That's your world. So what are we missing on the operations side? I'm going to put you on the spot. So what so far what we've talked about? What are we missing? What have we not mentioned that you think is important that everybody should hear about how fast you guys are able to ship out and how awesome your operations are? Since that's
absolutely.
Is that because that honestly that matters. Yeah. I mean, it really does.
We have a really quick turnaround. Mass produce them in full pallet quantities, so I can get orders for full trucks and get them shipped out same day or next day. So we have a really quick turnaround on getting the product out. Everything you said was on point. So.
Oh, it's on point. Well, yeah. But the guy that helped create it, you would think he's gonna. But we all know. I've talked to you guys before, so I knew I had a feeling Rich was going to dominate the conversation, and that's it's all good. But I want to make sure I gave you your props, my man. I know you're out there. You're doing that stuff that people don't get to see, right? You're doing the dirty work out there, making sure everything gets where it needs to go, and. Exactly. And where is it coming from? I mean, I know, but let's tell the listeners, where are you guys out of?
We ship out of El Paso. Mm-hmm. It's a good central point.
Oh, nice. Okay. All right.
It's closest to our markets than California.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Well, then maybe I didn't know. For some reason, I was thinking you guys were FOB out of California, but out of El Paso does make a lot more sense. That's very that's very
we
cool.
used to be, but it got really expensive shipping a pallet of wattle from Sacramento to North Carolina. It got a little pricey.
Have you guys ever thought about doing because you talk about, man, that just sounds horrible. That story you talk about, worst case scenario. What was that? Was that the Colorado market? Is that what you said was the worst case scenario where they're just coming in and beating the crap out of the DuraWattle? Have you guys ever thought about making a DuraWattle HD or something? Is that even possible? I don't know. Just would that make sense to do?
Everything's possible. The product that we make now holds up, and it's very economical to manufacture in the way that we do it now. And so there's a lot of gain that we get just from producing volume and having the production run, manufacturing the same thing, 40 to 50 hours a week, 52 days or 52 weeks out of the month, out of the year.
Out of the year, right? No, that makes sense. I don't know why I thought about that. I was just like, man, that is some beating that thing.
Yeah, well, we actually have made,
but then they're still good. They
I think the original versions we made was more durable, but they didn't want to. The contractors, it was a balance between making it durable and fitting within their budgets.
And that's huge. I mean, you can't. Yeah, I mean that's so awesome to be able to test the market. I think so many times you get a product that solves a problem that nobody has, and then they wonder why they're struggling. Where you actually got that. You were fortunate to where you got that immediate feedback, and you didn't just be like, "Oh, they're crazy," or "They don't know," or you thought that you know better. You listened to that feedback, and you came up with a solution that's taken you into what's it now? 14, 24, 17 years,
something like that.
2006, 17 years.
But I have to give a shout out to Percy Cole. I know I mentioned him before.
Yeah. Who's Percy Cole?
It was a collaboration. He's still a close friend of mine. Percy's retired now, but it was his idea. And my collaboration was figuring out how to make it and manufacture it in an efficient way that we could deliver to marketplace. So Percy's retired doing his thing now, and we're still making DuraWattle.
I don't know who got the best. I don't know. Like, I guess that's a conversation for another time. Who got the best deal there? I don't know. But you got Nelson right there, Rich. So you and me, we're the old guys on this call. For those of you that are not watching on YouTube, so Nelson is 100% the future. What am I missing, guys? I just think it's such a simple product. But you guys are tackling a couple of products that are just like knee jerk. It's what we've always done. Blah blah blah. I hate that. Like, why do you guys do that? Oh, it's because we've always done it that way. That I just can't stand that answer to stuff. But then I'm kind of a nerd, right? And I like to look at new stuff. It's just, like I said, it's just so simple. What other things maybe I'm missing? Other use cases that we could put out there for folks where they understand? I think. At this point, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it is pretty straightforward, but I think I could explain where it works best. The best case scenario for DuraWattle, and that doesn't mean there's not other applications that it will work in. The best case scenario for DuraWattle is in front of home sites where you have put in a sidewalk. It actually installs on top of the sidewalk with a tail section draping over the curb and being trenched in and backfilled. So that's its best case scenario. And one of the reasons for that is as you're driving over the top of it, you can't push the DuraWattle through the sidewalk. If I install it on the soil, and it's raining, you can push the DuraWattle straight down into the soil. That doesn't mean we don't have customers that install it on soil. That doesn't mean we don't have customers that install it where there's no sidewalk, but that's really where it shines. So on a sidewalk, trench right behind the sidewalk, pinned in place and backfilled. Now, our other application, we actually get quite a bit of this, is we've developed a hard surface application where on a temporary basis, it can be installed with a wood plank and anchored with, what do they call them?
Like a Tapcon concrete anchor is usually what our customers use.
Yep. So, I'm looking at that on their website. That makes sense now. I can see the wood
and
furring.
For a long-term application, they'll use like metal strips over the tail sections because the wood after a while will start to warp and break with vehicles driving over it and stuff.
Gotcha.
So, and those applications, a lot of the time we see it, at Walmarts and places where they're doing remodeling of an existing structure, and they have to do perimeter control around it. The more permanent applications, the real one that comes up a lot is stockpile management. Where they'll have a permanent need to do perimeter control around stockpiling. And we have all of that documented on our website. It does both quite well. Another thing I forgot to mention about the DuraWattle is we've been field tested. Now, our DuraWattle was sent to TRI Environmental at their field testing facility, and it was they simulated a storm event with thousands of gallons of water filled with sediment. They flew it down or flowed the water down an embankment into the DuraWattle and measured its capacity to handle a stormwater event and and how much sediment it would retain. And we actually have that video on our website showing the actual the test itself, as well as the test reports. We're proud to say that we got a 96% sediment retention. So we have a product that you can drive trucks over, flow water, and contain 96% of sediment retention. And it breaks it down not just by sediment, but it'll break it down by different materials, from anything from silt to clay to other materials within the test. And that's all available on our website, performed by TRI Environmental.
Gotcha. I'll go find it on the website, and we'll link it for everybody who would like to see that. I'll link it in the show notes, and that'll take you right directly to it there on their website. So that's fantastic. Something else I just thought about, and of course, obviously agree, disagree, correct me, but I feel like this is a great use for some of these home builds or these neighborhoods where they've got these expansions going on, and maybe it's a nicer neighborhood, and the DuraWattle just provides, in my opinion, just a better aesthetic, and so especially when there's already people possibly living in an area, and who wants to look at silt fence all over the place? Who wants all that? And granted, there's a place for everything. I'm not trying to really tear up straw wattle or silt fence, but straw wattle. I've got some right outside the street. They're going to do some work here in Orange, Texas, and they haven't even started the work yet. I got straw walls everywhere. So, it's going down it's obviously going down the drain. It's down the street. It's everywhere. So I could see that being just atrocious, especially if you got an HOA or whatever. But in a situation with your all's product, I think it's effective. You just mentioned that, and aesthetically, it's pleasing to the eye. As things go that we do in construction before we're done, it's actually fairly pleasing to the eye. Have you guys kind of try to lean into that a little bit?
We've been told by our contractors that one, DuraWattle helps keep the stormwater inspector away, which has nothing to do with aesthetics, but you're not seeing
I was like,
you're not seeing damaged product when you come on their job. The first thing you don't see is destroyed product. And they're more likely just to drive through and leave them alone. But the other thing we've heard is that the sales appreciates it because it just makes the job sites look cleaner. And it's not an eyesore. So, those are definitely benefits.
Right. All right, gentlemen. Hey, I appreciate it. I think, again, it's such a straightforward, to me, no-brainer situation. I love it. I hope those of you out there listening that have never heard of it, never seen it, go check it out. I think it's a great product that you can combine with the other products. We're not going to throw, the straw window out the window, the baby out the basket, whatever the word is. We're not getting rid of anything, but I think everything can work in its place. And I think you guys, obviously, after 17 years, you definitely have a great product. That and we all think everybody's heard of everything, and I guarantee you they haven't. And it's always crazy to me, right? 17 years. And there's going to be somebody that's like, wow, I didn't even know that was a thing. If somebody wants to, are you guys going to be anywhere anytime soon? Any shows coming up that you're going to be at where people can come by and shake a hand and say hello?
Well, Nelson.
Yeah, we're going to be going to StormCon, I believe is that Dallas?
Okay. Yep. Dallas at the end of August, 29th and 31st. You guys will be at
and then we'll definitely be at the next IECA event in February. Yeah.
February. Okay. The national event. Gotcha. Cool.
I believe so. Yeah.
I believe so. I think you're right.
And then right now we're working on our smaller, regional shows. So we're kind of looking at that to see which ones that we will be at this year. So
cool. Well, if you guys want to follow or find out where these guys are going to be, check out their LinkedIn page. I'm sure they'll put that stuff out there on that, and then see them at StormCon. And what's the best way to get hold of you? Rich, I know you're not real active on social media. Nelson, can people hit you up on LinkedIn if they want to, on DM, or what's the best way? Just get on the website and give you guys a call. Would that be the best way to get in touch?
If you go through the website and reach out to us, I'm usually the one to respond, or you can go into our LinkedIn and just reach out to us, and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, you might be able to find me on Twitter.
Yeah, over there on Facebook. You guys can find Rich on Facebook. Oh my gosh. I was waiting. I knew this conversation was going to go sideways somehow. All right, y'all. Anything else that we're missing? Anything else? Anything that you guys would like to say in regards to stormwater before we sign off of this pod?
No, if you want us to, show up to a meeting, let us know. We'd be happy to, come talk to you guys about DuraWattle. Show you guys some of the
there you go. Lunch and learns.
We've been known to send out free samples. So if you think, hey, that looks like something that may work for us, hit us up and we'll send you some samples and talk to you guys about how it may work in your application.
There you go. Right out of the man's mouth. He said he'd come talk to everybody. All right. Thank you all so much for coming on the pod. We've talked offline and whatnot. I know this is not your favorite thing to do, Rich, but I do appreciate you all's time, and we'll talk to you all later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Stormwater World Podcast. Do you have something you'd like to discuss? Do you have an opposing opinion regarding something you heard during this episode? Let's talk about it. Click on the link in the show notes to sign up for a future episode. I'd love to visit with you about what's happening and how you see things unfolding in your stormwater world.